Hello viewers, in this video I'm going to show you how you can perform this amazing animation in React using Framer Motion. Welcome to Edge Concepts. My name is Aloko Godric. To save on time, I already have my app running in my browser. So I have my browser on this side and my editor on the other side. So inside app.js, I have an h1 tag displaying my first name, which is displayed there. So to test if I can type SS there and save that, there you go. So I have created this data.js file, and inside here I have an array of objects. These objects represent the fonts that I'm going to display in my browser. Now I have also created a folder called images inside the public folder, and inside here I've stored the images corresponding to this image property of the objects that I have here. Then I have created a components folder. This components folder contains two files which represents the components that I'm going to work with. So we shall start with the first component, this products.js file. We're going to create an arrow function here. Then inside here we're going to import the data array. So I'm going to import data. And I'm importing that from our data array, data file here. Use this data. So let me close this because I don't need it anymore. So the first thing we're going to do is to iterate over this array, but first I need to create another class here. Call it product container. So inside this product container is where I'm going to iterate over the array. So I'm going to use the math method. This math method accepts a function as a parameter. So I'm using the arrow function, and it's going to return a div. And inside this we shall be able to access each object, and it also takes this function takes a parameter which is going to represent the objects. So I can call it item. So here we're going to display the object information, image, price, and the name of the phone. So let's create a class and call it product card. So inside the product card we're going to display an image. So the images are inside the image folder, which is inside the public folder. So we are using the template literals. So it's going to be item.image, that is the property of the image, the name of the image. So if we save this, nothing is happening to the browser because I'm yet to import this in my app.js. So I should be able to access it. So I'm going to import it and access it there. is product. So if we save, here we have the images. So I don't need this app anymore, so I'll close it. And now display the name of the phone. It's going to be item dot product. Then I'll also display the price in a paragraph. It's going to be item dot price. So if we save that, then before we proceed, I'd like us to work on the styling. I have imported the app.css file. I have imported it in the app.js, which is here. So we shall be doing all our styling in this app.css. First, I'm going to remove the default padding, margin, and the box size. So padding is going to be 0. And margin is going to be 0. Then box sizing is going to be border box. Then I'm going to work on this div. First, let's give it a class name of app. So like the app to have this app, let's give it a width of 100 view width and display of block. Let's save that. Next thing is to work on the content. I'm going to work on the product container. So the product container is going to have a width of 100%, which is the width of the app, in a display of grid. And we'd like to have 3 template columns, 3 items per row, so 3. Only 5. Save that. Then I like to work on the body. I forgot to work on the body. So the body, I like the body to have a background color of light gray. The next thing is the product card. I like the product cards to have a background color of white. Then border radius of 10 pixel. Display of block. Then line text to the center, text the line center. Submit. Something must be wrong. Then we shall also give this product container a grid gap. So I'm going to have a grid gap of 20 pixels. Then padding around 20 pixels also. So if we save that, so you can see our cards are now separated, but the width of the images are not set. So let's work on the image, specifically the image inside the product card. Let's give it a width of 100% and the border radius 10 pixels. Save that. There we have our 5 fonts displayed. So let's work on the paragraphs inside the product card. First, we're going to align them to the left and give them a margin left of 20 pixels. Then also let the product card to have a padding bottom of 20 pixels. So if I save that, see them nicely displayed. Then my price is going to be in Kenya shillings. So we are done with styling the grid. So the next thing that we are going to do is to start working on the main mission of the day, which is to animate these cards to the model. You know, when you click on this one or on this phone, it effects to the model or it animates onto the model. So you're going to create that model here, and that model is going to be displayed conditionally. So to be able to display it conditionally, we're going to make use of the useState hook. So I have to import the useState hook, then we are going to create a condition that is going to be responsible for toggling the model. So using the useState hook, we can name it expand, and the initial state of expand is going to be false. So to be able to use the frame of motion library that is going to help us in the animation, if you're following along the video, you can add a terminal and npm install frame of motion. You can also install React icons because we're going to use it in the styling of our model. So if you've already done that, you can go ahead and import the components that you're going to use from the frame of motion library. So from frame of motion, we shall need the motion component. We shall also need the animate presence, and we shall need animate shared layout. those three. Then the next thing that we are going to do is to work on the model that we are going to display here. So the model is going to be contained in the app, this product.js. So let's create a function component here. Then import that functional component, import this product component here. So we are going to import product from product. Then to render it conditionally, so we depend on this condition if it's true. So if expand is true, then we also want to display the product. Bear with me because I'm very slow at typing. Then this product needs to access the information of the fonts. So first, to be able to do that, we need to import the data representing the fonts. So we are importing data from data. Then we shall do the props drilling here. For these fonts to be able to fade into the font component, or to be able to fade or not animate into the model, we need to have some ID that is going to be common, so that if we click on, for example, iPhone 7, the ID of iPhone 7 should be equal to the ID of the font that we are going to display on the pop-up model. So we need to create that ID here, still using the use state hook because it's going to be dynamic. Let's call it layout ID. And its initial state is going to be null. Then we prop drill the ID here. So the ID is going to be the same as layout ID. Then how do we update this layout ID? We need a function. So let's create a function and call it an expander. I'm using the arrow function. This arrow function is going to have a parameter here. Let's call this parameter ID. Now to be able to update the ID, we shall be updating it by accessing this function when we click on the product card. So let's create a click event. To be able to send an argument to this parameter, we need to use an arrow function here. Then if we invoke it directly with the the brackets, it's going to throw an error. So to avoid that, that's why we're using the arrow function here. Then we can access the expander. Then the argument that we are sending It's going to be the ID of the item, which is item.id. So we want to update the ID only if the layout is null, or if the expand variable is false. So using the if statement here and the condition rendering here, we're going to say that if the expand is not true, if the expand is not true, or if the expand is false, in other words, we want to update this expand to true. So you're going to set it to true. Set expand to true. Then we also want to update this layout ID. So set layout ID to ID. Save that. Then let's work on displaying the font on the product. So we have done props drilling. So to be able to access the ID here, we have to create an object, and inside of the object we have this ID variable. So we need to create the object that we are going to access its property, which is now the font. So we're going to use the array iteration method known as find. So let's create a variable to represent the object. We shall call it font. So using the data that we have imported here, that is the data array. So we are going to find an object that has the same ID as this one here. So the find method takes a function as a parameter, and this function is going to represent that object that we are going to find. So our interest is to find the object whose ID, so the ID of the item is the same as this ID here. Now this ID is a string, so we have to convert it to an integer using the parseInt method. So save that, and we have our object. So we are going to display that object here. So the first thing that we are going to display is the image. So using the template literals, we're going to access the image, which is inside the images folder, and this images folder is inside the public folder. So the name of the image is going to be $, then curly braces, then font, because font is now the object, then dot image. Is it image or images? It's image. So if we save that, you can test it out by clicking here. We have an error. Cannot read property images undefined. So it means that this is undefined. That could be the problem. So there is an error here. It should be item.id. So if we save that, let's refresh our browser and click on this. There we have the phone being displayed. Good. So the next thing we're going to do is to work on the other condition here, so that if the opposite of this is going to set the layout to null. We're going to set the layout ID to null. Then we're also going to set the expand to false. Save that. So if we click there, it set it to false. It opens there. So we have to bring the frame motion in. I have imported motion and made presence and made shared layout earlier. So to allow our animation to take place before the component leaves, the tree, we need to wrap this item that is being rendered conditionally in with the animate presence. So we are going to wrap this with animate presence. Then we also need to have a key, because we are rendering several products here. So needs to have a key which is unique. Our unique key is simply going to be the ID. So item.id. And also have a key here. This unique key is going to be the ID. So let's work on covering the whole container by styling this. So first let's style this div. Give it a name first, class name of let me call it expanded. Expanded. I'm writing so many errors, forgive me for that. Expanded card. Call it expanded card. Then in this expanded card, one section is going to have an image, and the other section is going to have text. So let's create the parent div for the image. Can call it expanded image. So copy that, put it there. Then we're also going to have inside this expanded image, we're going to have a paragraph. So let's create a p tag there. And this is where we're going to use the React icons. So to be able to use the React icons, you can simply search for React icons here. Head to their website. Then this is how the installation is done. I have already done that. So to be able to use a particular component, you need to import it. component I'm interested in is the back icon. I can type back there and we'll be presented with a number of icons you can use. The one that I'm going to use is this one here, so I'm going to copy it and import it there. So it starts with RI, so this the folder that is containing that. I don't know the folder or the component. Save that. Then to use it, I'm going to create a component there and paste that. Then save. So if you save that, then head back to the browser and refresh. There's an error, S is not defined in line 4. Yes, a mistake there. So let's see. It is not defined already clear, but when you refresh, they have the components. So if I click on that one, right, so this is our icon. So we are going to wrap this again in a div. So let's create a div here and call it expanded. Expanded image content. And this is what is going to house everything now. Image with the paragraph. So we are done working on the displaying the image. We shall do the styling later. Let's come to the expanded text. So expanded text. Inside the expanded text, let's create expanded text content. This should be a class. So inside the expanded text content, we are going to display the name of the font, which is going to be font.product. Then we are going to display the details. It is going to be font.details. And down here, I'd like us to have a button and the price. I can wrap that in a class by giving it a name of text footer. Then we have a paragraph for the price. It's going to be font.price. Then we have a button. And this button we want to write by now. Save that. We go to the browser. So there we have our information. So the price is going to be in Kenyan shillings. So let's do the styling of this. First, we are starting with the expanded card. We want the expanded card to cover everything. So we shall give it a position of absolute. Because it has a position of absolute, we shall do the set the left to 0, then bottom to 0, left 0, bottom 0, right 0, and even top 0. Save that. There we have it on top. Then we shall set its color to let's not set the color to anything, let's just set the height. Zooming on height, I like it to have 120 view height. Then with it should be 100 view with it. Save that. Let's work on the card content. Product card. We have done that. No, it's this expanded image. We can still give this a background color. We want it to have a background color of white. So if you save that and see it's covering everything, I mean everything. So the next part we are going to work on is the expanded image. So we are going to set this expanded image width to 50% of the parent. And then display of block. My keyboard is skipping some keys. Then the next thing we want to work on is this. Let me close this because it's confusing me. So let's work on the expanded image content. Give it a width of 100% of this. Then a display of block. Text align center. Then let's work on this paragraph. So we're going to say expanded content paragraph. Align it to the left. So text align left, then margin left. Should be left. Margin left will be 40 pixels. So there we have it. Then I want the expanded image to have a padding top. Padding top of 50 px. Then the image content, I would like it to have this light gray background. So copy that and come to image, expanded image. And we also want this background to go to expanded card. I think instead of having a background white there, let's have a light gray background there. And it covers everything. So then this is where we are going to have a background color for it. It's not saving. I have a problem with my keyboard. Then we worked on let's work on the expanded image now. And then it's not copy. I need to get another keyboard. So expanded image. Give it a 100%. So if we save that, then we have our image. Then the expanded content, we want it to have a padding of 40 pixels all around. And this one we can give it a color of orange red, and then font size of 30. Let's give it a font size of 30 pixels. Let's make it 40. No, 40 is a bit high. So 30 is better. Next, we shall make it bold. So font weight. Bold. Yeah. So the next thing is to I think is this padding. This padding should come in there. Let's give this a padding of 40 also. let's remove this and give a padding top of 20 pixels. Then you can also give it a radius 40 pixels. And the image is having can leave it 90. Yeah, so let's work on the text. So expanded text is going to have a width of 50%. Display block. And then expanded card should have display of flex. Then expanded text should have a padding of, let's give it a padding of 20 pixels. And let's make it 30. So let me work on next inside this expanded text. Let's first give these classes. So class name, I'm going to call this product name. And these are product details. And this one product price. So we shall start with the product name. Product name shall have a font size of 20 pixels. And a weight of bold. So font weight, let's make it bold. Then product details. I'm going to have a font size of 14 pixels. Then color gray. So can make the gray a bit dark. Then can give it a margin top. 40 pixel. 40 is a bit high, so you can make it 20. Then let's work on this text footer. Give it a width of let's not give it a width. Let's just give it a margin left. And 40 pixel. Then margin top of 20 px. So that then the display of floats. Then let's work on the footer text, which is this product price. It's not copying my keyboard. It's causing issues here. It is product price. Let's give it font size of 18 pixel and the color gray. Even weight, font weight of bold, then margin right of 20 pixel. Then this footer should have items aligned at the center. Then you can increase. Okay, before we do that, let's work on the button. We only have one button here, so in this project we only have one button, so we should simply proceed to buttons and remove the border. So remove the outline. Then color. Let's make it white. Then background color, we're going to do the orange red. Then set some padding. So padding, we're going to have 10 px top, bottom, and 20 pixel. Right, left, then border radius of 10 pixel. So if we save that, then we have our button. So we can push all this information down here. So product text should have padding top. Or let's give it 20 pixel. Network. Let's a little bit. Let's make it 90. So then we have our information. So what we want to do, if we press this button, this icon here, we should be able to go back to. We should be able to go back to this page. So we simply need to access our function that we created earlier in the products component. So we need to access this function, this one here, the expander function. So we have to pass it down. So expander is going to be the same as expander. So that, and then bring it here. Then we access it here. So click, should be able to access our expander. Save. So which we have our form in the details. Click we are back. Now click we are back. So we now need to work on the animation so that when we click this, it doesn't just pop up like that, but it fades there. So back in the product.ps, we need to create a shared layout using the frame animation. To create a shared layout so that we have a component with the same ID here and a component with the same ID being displayed there, so that when this is displayed, the one with the same ID there disappears and fades there. But to be able to do that, we need to have this, all this in animate shared layout. We should come to this data and wrapper and put the animate shared layout. And the type of this animate shared layout is going to be cross-fed. Now the shared layout ID is this ID, this ID here. Remember, when we click on the product containing, on the card, when we click on the card, we were able to set the item ID to set this ID to the item ID, which is being accessed here as the ID of the product that we are going to display on the pop-up. So we need to create that attribute on the cards. The attribute is layout ID. It's going to be on this part is going to be item .id. Save that. And on the other side, the layout ID is going to be, where's the card? The layout ID the layout ID is going to be this ID here. So to be able to animate, we need to wrap everything. Wrap the animating divs, to join the motion component that we have imported here. So this is where the motion component comes in. So we're going to animate the card, and therefore I'm going to join the motion. This motion. So join it there, and we shall also join it there, but first we need to import it. So we'll simply come and copy all this and put it there. Save, then drop this. Motion. Let's save that. So if I save this and head to the browser, see it's working. So when you click, it fades. So you can see our cross-fading is working perfectly fine. You can also work on the animation of the text. What we want is that when we click, this fades in first, then this fades in, then the bottom also fades in. So to do that, we need to create the motion, a motion capability on first on the iPhone. I mean not the iPhone. Let's find the component that is housing the whole of this. It is the expanded text component. That's from text. Then we also need that to happen here. Let's say what. Then what we are going to do is to define our animations. Initially, before the text is mounted, we expect its state to have. So we create the initial property here, or attribute. The initial attribute takes an object. We want the opacity to be 0. Then we also want its scale to be 0. Scale should be 0. This should be covering everything. Then when it mounts, we want to animate now to opacity of 1. The opacity, let's make it 1. Or to put an equal sign there. And the scale to be 1 also. it should be a comma. Then the transition should have a delay and a duration. So you want to delay it by, let's delay it by 0.5 seconds. And let's have a duration of 0.5. Let's say that. So let's highlight this and see if it's working. See. Then let's work on the lower part. This footer. So initial state is going to be an opacity of 0. Opacity of 0 and scale of 0 also. Then when it amounts, we now want to animate it to opacity of 1. And the scale of 1. Then the transition, let's set the duration. It will take a second. And let's have a delay of 1 second, so that it comes after the top text. So if we save that, go back, come share. It's having a duration of 0, it should be 0.5. Go back and come text flat again. So we can give this scale of 0.5. Yeah, so that is it. This video is taking so much time. I wouldn't want to extend it. So if you like to know more about Framer Motion, you can navigate to their website by simply typing Framer Motion or framer.com. And if you want to look at the documentation and how you can code this, you can navigate to the motion section. If you're new to this library, so if you navigate to the motion section, you'll be able to go through the documentation and be able to go through everything you need to know about Framer Motion. You'll be guided. This is the animation that I'm actually doing in the project. So this is the kind of the animation that we've been doing, but mine now is taking the whole application. We have quite a bunch of animations you can use in your project. So we have the resources, updates, pricing, documentation. So quite a lot of items you can access. So thank you for taking your time to watch this video. And if you like this content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel so that you can receive or be able to receive updates on more amazing videos like this. See you next time.